learning it was a dangerous choice. One mom learning that the hard way. After refusing to vaccinate her 3 children, they were all suddenly stricken with a potentially deadly illness. Her family sick for weeks, and that changed her perspective forever. These are Kristen O'Mara's 3 children, happy, healthy, and now fully vaccinated. But it wasn't always that way.
I put my kids at risk. I wish that I had taken more time to research both sides.
O'Mara, a teacher living outside of Chicago, says she was a big believer in anti-vaccination research.
I scoured, everything I could possibly find about why vaccines might be harmful. I became pretty convinced.
So she chose not to vaccinate her children. But then her 5-year-old and 3-year-old twins were stricken with a case of rotavirus. O'Mara and her husband also got very sick. She was suddenly living with the terrifying consequences of her choice.
It was awful, and it didn't have to happen because I could have had them vaccinated. I felt guilty.
Although the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends vaccinations for practically every child, the group says that the number of parents refusing to vaccinate their children may be on the rise. In 2013, 87% of pediatricians surveyed had encountered parents who refused a vaccine, up from 75% in 2006. The most common reasons for refusing to vaccinate, some parents cited they believed vaccinations were unnecessary and they had concerns about autism, a link which has been repeatedly disproven.
What are you doing?
Today, O'Mara's children are fully up to date on their vaccines after an aggressive catch-up regimen. Now she's encouraging others to vaccinate their kids too.
I'm here because I wanted to share my personal story, and if it does help someone change their mind, then that's great.
Now, O'Mara says that if her children had been babies or had a compromised immune system when they got sick, they may not have survived. Still, it can be a hot-button issue. She says her decision to eventually vaccinate her kids led to the end of some very close friendships. George?
Vaccinating your kids ended friendships. Okay, let's talk to Dr. Rich Besser about that. I just don't get the strong, vehement feelings about this when the science seems so clear.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is really strong. So this illness she's talking about, rotavirus, when I was in training, there wasn't a vaccine. And there were 200,000 kids every year in the ER, 70,000 hospitalized. There were 60 kids each year where it was the last virus they got. They would die from rotavirus. And now that doesn't have to be.
And this family sort of illustrates the real danger of not vaccinating your kids. The whole family got sick. It's this whole herd immunity problem.
Yeah, so let me try and explain that. Take a look at this graph. These kids here in yellow, they're all vaccinated. The kids in blue are not protected by vaccines. Some may have just decided not to get it. Some may have an immune problem. But when these kids in red come in who are sick with rotavirus, the kids who are not vaccinated are surrounded by yellow kids who provide that buffer. That's herd immunity. They don't get sick because there's enough people around them who are vaccinated. But if in that classroom there are a lot more blue kids, it'll spread through and you don't get that protection.
It took a real health crisis to convince this family. Why is it so hard to convince people what can be done about it?
It is so hard. Study after study, people have tried using fear. That doesn't work. Using facts, that doesn't work. Laws help. So when you require it for school or make it harder where a parent has to go to a doctor to get a note, that will decrease the number of people who say no. But this is one of those things that I just don't fully understand, because to me as a pediatrician, there's nothing I do for my kids that's more valuable.
So when a mom comes to you and says, listen, I just don't want to do it,
yeah,
what do you say?
Well, when I first started in practice, I said, you need a different pediatrician. Now I try and work with them, and I give them information, and over time, as that relationship of trust builds up, I'm finding more parents saying, I think I want to go that way. But part of the problem is, and it's a good problem, we don't see a lot of the diseases anymore we vaccinate against because they're so rare. We don't see kids with polio, but in parts of the world they still do.
But we have the vaccinations here. Rich Besser, thanks very much. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of questions on this, and you'll be taken throughout the morning on social media and Twitter. Coming up, the moment.